Hello and good morning, wherever it is that you're catching us from. I'm very, very excited to be with you this morning. We are having a very, very not only interesting conversation, but also an interesting topic. And so, my name is Wairimo, the Audacity Mentor, and I am so excited to have your company. And remember, the comment section is open for you so that you can be able to contribute to this discussion. But before we go ahead, I just want to cue the intro. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm seeing we already have company. And so remember to say hi so that I can acknowledge you. So today our topic is, why do moms stay in toxic relationships? Why do moms stay in toxic relationships? And I just want to invite you to this conversation because it may not touch on you, but it may touch on a friend, it may touch on a relative, somebody you care about. And so our expert for today, Fatma Wambugo, she's going to share with you tips, tricks, things you can do so that you allow yourself or you allow those you love who are going through a toxic relationship to be able to start healing. And so I'm very happy to have Fatma around. But before I introduce her to you, I would like to just talk about who I am because I know Fatma is also coming from the Tranquil Hub Facebook page, and she also has people in her community. And so my name is Wairimo, the Audacity Mentor, and I'm a Christian-based mom mindset and life mentor. I'm also an author of a book called Wired Weird, and I work with moms like you, moms who are prioritizing their personal growth, moms who want to build bankable personal or business brands, sometimes both of them. And the reason why I work with moms who are building bankable brands is so that then they get to design and live out a life they desire and that God approves without compromising faith or family. And so part of what happens with a mom who is prioritizing personal growth, she's like, I want to move from the place of being stuck where I am right now to a place of growth. And so moms who are in toxic relationships are almost just stuck, almost numb, almost feeling broken and without any self-esteem. And we want to move from that stage to a place where they can walk with confidence. They can say a story of how they were in a toxic relationship or how God healed the toxic relationships. Because at the end, if don't want to compromise family, it means you may want to still stay. But there are ways that Fatma, I'm sure she can share with us that we can start healing even as a family. And so if that is you, and you feel like you just want to grow, you want to invest in yourself, time and resources, I would love, love, love to get to know you more. So, like I said, I have a book. My book is Wired Weird, and just look out for it. I'll put links below once we are done so that you can be able to get yourself a copy if you do not already have one. And the other thing that I want to encourage you is this is not the fast chasing courage conversation. So if you go to my YouTube channel, just type at the Audacity Mentor, you're going to find other conversations that we've had, whether it's a talk, whether it's a training like this one, or whether it's warrior mom testimonies where moms come and share. I used to be in a toxic relationship. This is what I did. This is what I went through. So just go and read these victorious stories of women who dared to chase courage, and you'll be encouraged. You'll know that you are not alone. So make sure that you catch other Chasing Courage conversations, trainings that I've also given myself. We've also had Fatma twice before, so this is her third time. I'm very glad to always pick her brain on matters like this, which are very critical. So I want to just share with you our verse that's going to lead us for today. It comes from Mark 12, from 28 to 31. And what was happening at this time is that there was a teacher of the law, and this teacher of the law came up to Jesus while the Sadducees were arguing. And when he heard Jesus give a good answer, he asked him, what is the most important commandment? And here's the thing, it's not because he really wanted to know, it's just because he was testing Jesus. But this is what Jesus said, the most important one, or the greatest one, people of Israel, you have only one Lord and God. You must love him with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind and strength. The greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, with everything that embodies you. And the second most important commandment says, love others as much as you love yourself. No other commandment is as great as this. Love others as much as you love yourself. And if you've been in my circle for a little bit, you know that I am one of the wins that I give my moms is that number one win is that we must be able to apply the first and second greatest commandments in our lives. The fact that we're talking about moms staying in toxic relationships, there's a love that is missing from them or from the other person, isn't it? And yet, God has commanded us to love others as much as we love ourselves. And so, my hope is that through this conversation, as Fatma takes us through this discussion, that we're going to start seeing other people the way we would like to be seen. There is an author, allow me to make reference, called Tony Campolo. And he was saying, part of saying that we love others the way we love ourselves is being able to see the sacredness of the other person. Because if God is in them, if Christ is in them, when you're loving the other person, you're not actually, it's not a privilege, it's a privilege actually. You're not doing them a favor. It's because Christ said that when you do this to the least of my people, you do it to me. So Christ is saying, when you love the other person, you are loving me. And so let's embody this. When we are being asked to love our neighbors, we love ourselves. Let's be in that space where we see the sacredness of the other person. We treat them with dignity, and then we be in this place where we are just seeing, if God took time to create this other person, we are going to love them no matter what. And so that's our guiding verse for today, so that the moms who are in these relationships, that they're feeling stuck, or you know somebody who is in this, that they get to learn to love themselves. You cannot give what you do not have. And just because of understanding, you are sacred. And God gives other people around you the privilege to love you. You need to love yourself first. And so we had prayed with Fatma, so I think I'll just bring her in so that we can have this discussion together. But here is the thing, our discussion for today, if you're just joining us, is why moms stay in toxic relationships. All right. And so allow me to bring in Fatma so that we can have this discussion. Fatma, you can unmute yourself. So Fatma is an emotional wellness coach, and she's also a certified child therapist. And so she's coming to us not just from a child's point of view, because children are being hurt by our toxic relationships, but she also knows, on the other hand, what the mom is going through emotionally that's allowing her to stay in that relationship. And so, Fatma, I'm so delighted as always to have you. Like I said, when that video was going around, doing the circles in Nairobi, in Kenya, I'm sure in Africa, it was discussed a lot, of the mom who took poison and she passed away in her sitting room, in her living room, and one of her children even came and saw her mom, their mom just losing their life. There's trauma to the child, but also something must have been really broken about this mom for her to reach that place of just, giving up. And we don't want any other child to go through that type of pain. And so I'm so happy that you're here, not necessarily to discuss that topic. I think the people concerned have talked about it, but it's so that no other mom in a toxic relationship feels they have to take their life because of another human being, and that they allow their children to grow up seeing a mom who is happy. So how are you feeling about this discussion, Fatma?
Wow, thank you so much, Rejimo, for having me. And I think
Yeah,
this is one of the topics that are very close to my heart.
yeah.
And for me, I'm very passionate about children, and of course, children did not come from trees. Children, came from two people, and the child was born, and of course, the experiences that the children get to go through are the ones that build up on their future life in their adulthood. So for me, I'm very passionate about children and parenting, yeah, so that each and every child, can have some good grounds, to be raised in. So thank you once again for having me, Wairimo. I think you've done the introduction, and for me, I think I'll just start off with something that you have said about loving unconditionally. I know it is not easy for us to love unconditionally, but that is what God wants for us. And who are we, to do the alternative? So here we are again. It is not easy, so we have to pray about it ourselves, so that God can help us. We have that heart to love unconditionally. And something else that you have said is that you cannot give what you do not have. So maybe I'll just pose this question to moms who are listening in right now, or to whoever is listening in right now. What do you have inside your heart, that you can give? Yeah, because if you don't have that love, remember, you cannot give. You cannot give it to somebody else. You cannot love unconditionally. So anyway, let me go straight into the topic of the day. And the topic is that why moms stay in toxic relationships. And the first thing that I can start off with is about there is no such a thing as a perfect relationship. Remember, these are two people who come from different backgrounds with totally different, maybe cultures, totally different religious beliefs. Yeah. So spouses have to fight at some point, and arguments will happen as well. And as these arguments happen, we have children who are with us. And at times when these children will break the rules, yeah, they're going to break the rules. But in a well-functioning relationship, these hiccups don't lead to abuse or a breakdown. Yeah. So what is a toxic relationship? A toxic relationship is one that makes one feel unsupported, one that makes one feel misunderstood, demeaned, or attacked. It's a relationship which is toxic. Yeah, when your well-being is threatened in some way, emotionally, it can be psychologically, and it can also be physically. It can also be physically. So what are the signs that you are in a toxic relationship? Remember, by the time you're coming to that realization that I am actually in a toxic relationship, it does not happen in a day. It is something that happens, and then you just unanyamazia tu. Then something else, it goes a notch higher, within time. And eventually you realize, gosh, I'm already in it. And maybe this is something that you had just said, maybe it's going to go, or maybe it's going to stop. But now you find yourself right in the middle of it. So what are these signs of being in an abusive relationship? Yeah, maybe not in the beginning, as I've said, but eventually, and you may at times even try to minimize it, and you may even struggle to leave. Now once you come to that realization that I'm in a toxic relationship, but there is something wrong, totally wrong with it. There is no doubt that the relationship is unhealthy. If you're unsure, maybe your friends and family will even keep reminding you that way, what is happening? What is happening? Yeah, it is there and it can be seen. Yeah, and it's just a matter of time before you address it or you leave it. But what if a relationship is not abusive? Can it still be toxic? Yes. And these relationships are just as dangerous. It may not look abusive. Yeah, everything seems to be okay. Maybe mumenyamaziana tu kwa nyumba, yeah, and you're thinking, I'm okay, but this can be toxic, because the minute that you are not able even to have a conversation in the house, what are you doing to each other? So as I said, yes, and these relationships are just as dangerous, if not more, than an abusive relationship, because you may not be aware that it's harming you. It's like boiling a frog. A toxic relationship, it can kill you slowly inside. Yeah, at times when you decide, all right, I'll not even talk to my spouse, or maybe my spouse is not talking to me, and you as a mom, you're just there seated and you're thinking, Nisawa, to now I cannot force him to speak to me. But deep inside of you, you have that need as a human being. God created us with a need to be loved, and the reason why the two of you are together is because you came up with a mutual agreement and you agreed, okay, we are living together, and here we are starting off a family. So clearly, no matter, how much it's not maybe abusive physically, it actually eats you up from the inside. And that is where the emotional comes in. Actually, it stunts your growth, it lowers your self-esteem, and it even disconnects you from your own self, yeah, without you knowing it. So it's something very subtle, but by the time you come to realize it, things have happened. So toxic can happen over time, and that's what makes toxic relationships so dangerous. Many aren't obvious, but toxic can be a very slow leak. You know, the way you can have maybe a tank that is leaking. It leaks, and then if you don't sort it out, yeah, the leaky faucet can drown you. It can actually drown you. One day you wake up and you realize that, yeah, I'm already swimming. I'm not even able to swim, you know, I'm already drowning, you know. So this can be a very dangerous, mostly if you are not actually able to identify and even be able to realize that this is what is happening. So that is why it's important to step back once in a while and review. Yeah, but not as an evaluation, as a check-in with yourself. You know, when you're always talking about a self-care for moms, you know, just that me time, being away from your home and just be yourself. It's very important, so that you can be able to see where exactly is the problem. Because remember, at times you're not able to think when there is already so much happening around us. You need to step out with a lot of courage and just go analyze and see what is happening in my marriage. You know, try to identify maybe some of the signs and see what exactly is happening. And maybe you're the one who's making even that relationship toxic. You know, at times you might be thinking it's my spouse, but even me myself as a mom, I could be the problem. So, and that is why I need to step out and just go and check on what's happening. So what are some of the signs that we are in a toxic relationship? Number one, we're going to talk about the subtle character character assassination. Yeah, subtle character assassination. Character assassination, we already know what character means, and assassinating one's character isn't always obvious. You can do it without bad intentions. And many of us actually grew up belittling maybe our friends or our siblings as a way to connect. And this can carry into adulthood. Remember, this is a habit that people carry it from childhood into adulthood. And now imagine when you're meeting this spouse, or maybe, yeah, let's say you meet your spouse, because they're talking about moms here. And he was used to belittling people when he was, in school. This guy's sort of a bully in school. And there he is in your house and you're with him. And you didn't know that side of him until now, when now you have lived for quite a number of maybe years or months, And that is why we come across spouses who are body shaming. They are talking so negatively about you. So everything that you do, it is not good. No matter how, how high your rank is, even in your workplace, then they do not recognize that. By the time you're coming back to your house, they belittle you and you feel like you're nothing. They are always bringing up your past and judge you with it. Yeah. At times they can even talk about, you remember where Malini Likutua, the way you are looking, they can talk anything nasty just to make sure that they assassinate your character. Yeah. And they will even judge you with it. They don't care about your feelings. They can say anything and anything to you that is going to harm and affect your self-esteem. It's not about whether you mean what you say or not. That is what I tell people. It's about how your partner is wired and what he or she will internalize. Remember, again, we have come from different backgrounds. And maybe as a mom, there is what I used to go through when I was young. And maybe there were some things that were being told to me when I was young. So you can imagine now when this man comes in and starts talking to me in, starts telling me some negative things about myself. You can imagine what that happens. It actually triggers so many memories. It triggers so many memories, and this is so unconscious. You don't even get to know. It's in your subconscious, but now it is brought back to yourself, and you don't even realize it. Until now, when you start now shrinking, you start realizing that I don't even want to meet with my friends anymore. You are so particular with your body. I have seen women who go to those extreme ends of even doing what? Not really fasting, but nowadays there's so many programs for losing weight. Yeah, they have already lost enough weight, but you still hear them, hey, my tummy, and there is no, when you look at them, there is no tummy. It is flat. Why is that? Because remember, right now they are living in a way that they're so much on alert that they're just thinking about themselves because of what they've been told by their spouses back home. So this is a very it's a very subtle way of assassinating your character. And what I normally say is that any dialogue or behavior, intended or not, that takes away from one's worth is character assassination. And over time, this can create a hairline, cracks in your relationship container. So what happens? Yeah, when a mom, you go home and he's there again, and he's looking at you and you're just thinking, no, what is not okay now again with me? You know, you're there busy bleaching yourself. There's so many things that are happening around. And I know women, we are very beautiful and we thank God for that. But look at yourself also, the extremes that you are going to. Maybe how you were before you got married and where you are today. We need to also track those some of those behaviors so that we can understand what exactly is happening to ourselves. So this can also be described as gaslighting, a tactic one partner uses in an effort to exert power over or rather gain control over or inflict emotional damage. It is such a malicious form of emotional abuse because it causes you to question your experiences or even doubt your sanity and judgment. Like I've said, when you are being told so many things that are so negative, what happens to you? You start questioning yourself. Now, Kwani, what happened to me? At some point, am I losing it? You don't even understand, as in you're not even able to make decisions. And this actually can even affect you in your workplace. So that is one of the signs. And the other one is the control without knowing it. Every time your spouse is always checking up on you, he's always accusing you of talking to people that you shouldn't be talking to, or even at times, purposely making friends or family members feel so uncomfortable when they come to your home, and now you're wondering, now these are my family. Now will I tell them not to visit? So there is that sort of control that they have on you, that even at times they don't respect your boundaries. They go even into your phones, they go even into your emails, and they check what is actually happening in there. They want to know each and every detail of what is happening. At times maybe you have even gone for a what it's called you've gone for a duty outside town, and you realize that they even want to follow you. They want to come and actually check, is it true that you have gone for a meeting or whatever workshop or whatever it is that you have gone to do? So these people are very, very controlling, and that sometimes they'll even tell you what to wear and what not to wear. You can put on something and they'll come and tell you, I am not going with you anywhere with you dressed up like that, or you're not going to work dressed up like that. You need to dress up in a certain manner, like somebody's wife, the words that they use. So you have to be also very careful with some of the words that they use on you, so that you get to it's not. And at times, I know for us moms, we think, hey, my husband loves me, he's always telling me not to wear this and wear that, and you think they love you. It is not about love, by the way. It is not about love, because if you guys met and you are still dressing up in the same manner, and all of a sudden this person has come and now they want you to do things the way they want, then clearly there is some sort of control that is coming in there, and you have to be very, very careful with it. So of course, if your husband is not able to deal with the insecurity, because I know we are very human. We always get jealous at some point in our lives, but surely does that mean that you control me? We need to ask ourselves that question. And actually what happens is that it's what you do with that feeling of jealousy. Maybe if your spouse feels a continuous jealous about maybe how you're doing your things, even some of them, the in your workplace, like some of the things that you're doing with your, the categories that you're climbing on, and that they feel like threatened. You need to ask yourself honestly, why is this happening? But if they're not very open and to come to you and tell you, by the way, I am really struggling with the many developments that are happening in your life, so that now you can be able maybe to assist each other. If they don't get to that point, then it becomes a problem, because it becomes a jealous passive, and at some point it's going to develop an aggressive behavior. The other thing is that when you start prioritizing the needs of your spouse over your own, that you have now lost it. You don't even know who you are anymore, and you're there. So your husband says this, and that is it. Maybe you even had a date with your girlfriends, and actually even the issue of girlfriends here is not even there. But at times you're like, okay, I would like to go to the salon, maybe make my hair or go do something on my own. And then he comes in and tells you how tired I want us to do 1, 2, 3, and there you are. You're like, all right, it's all right. So prioritizing the needs of your spouse over your own, that is another sign that indicates that things are not going in the right direction. The other thing is about never taking ownership. you know. We don't always, we don't always own our issues, and that is okay. And these are issues like maybe somebody forgot to play his role, or even you as a mom, you refuse to play your role in the home, and there you are, you're questioning each other, and we definitely know that I'm the one who is at fault, or he is the one who is at fault, but they will never own it. They will never take ownership of whatever it is that has not been done. The other thing is about negativity. For too long, I think I had mentioned that earlier, somebody who is so negative about everything that you do, then you need to be very, very careful about that, because we all go through phases of emotions. It is okay, and we all have bad days. But if your partner takes no effort to catch light, and always dragging you into their cave because you're the closest person to them, that can turn the relationship toxic. Yeah, I remember once upon a time I used to be a very negative person, but God is good, because I realized what was happening in my relationship, in my marriage, and I decided, all right, I need to change things. I need to be very careful even with the words that I speak out. And it's not only for us moms, even dads. I mean, our spouses they become negative, and for them, it's quite raw. It's not like for us moms, So when that happens, I think it's best if we can, just agree that, this has been happening, and I feel we need to see how best we can work it out, so that we understand why is it happening the way it is happening, because it's always important to take responsibility for our own happiness. Remember, you're living with this person, and you do not want to live in a home whereby each and every time you're coming and negative words are just being thrown onto you. The food, the criticism is too much. My socks, why did you fold them this way? It becomes very, very petty. And at times you wonder, what is it? What is actually happening? You make some food, and all of a sudden the food is not okay. And they keep on telling you, why can't you make food the way you used to make food, when I met you? And you're wondering, gosh, if anything, I have become better. Then why are you just seeing the food? And now from the food, it moves to something else. It's just a roller coaster of just negative issues going around in your home. So those are some of the toxic side, and of course, there's so many that are there. But at the moment, maybe I can share that while Remo. Before we go into the next, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Fatma. Thank you for sharing that. Actually, I've written a few notes down. Allow me to help clarify some things. You clarify for us some things. I'll start with one of the last ones that you talked about, the one for prioritizing the needs of your spouse over yourself. And I want to, particularly in terms of, we are a Christian, most of us were raised Christians or in some religious way that teaches us as women the submission. And I think we as women take submission as whatever we are told, we do. And that if you say, I want to go out with my friends, and then you're told no, that if you still go, you're being disobedient. So please, because I want the moms who are listening and friends of moms who are listening to live here with some practical things. So, what are you supposed to do in that instance?
I think where we go wrong is from the word go. When we get married and when we are put into that home, we are like, now we have closed our whole world. Yeah, we do not even want to interact with our friends anymore, because now I got married. Now my life has changed. Imagine we are our own thorn in the flesh. Yeah, so we are the ones who have programmed this person to think that way. And of course, let's remember that our spouses, they have also come from a totally different background. And for them, there is what they saw when they were growing up, maybe with their parents. And at some point, it's very, again, subconscious that we are coming into marriage with that expectation of this woman will have to behave the way my mom used to behave. All right. So it's a very tricky situation, and it takes a lot of assertiveness from you as a mom, because from the word go, you need to set your boundaries, and you need to let your spouse understand that this is how my life is. Yeah, I need some time out again. I need some time just to be myself. I need to do things on my own. You do not always have to come hovering around me, or I do not have to cancel my plans because you have decided tunaenda ushago asubuhi, and yet they had not even mentioned about it. So the issue of submission becomes very tricky, but again, it depends on your understanding. If you can have a conversation with your spouse and just demystify this as submission, I think you need to go back to that. There was a time you had taken us through the issue of submission. So what I can say as at now, it begins with me. It begins with you as a mom. Where are you at? Yeah, are you assertive? Do you have boundaries with yourself? So that submission, submission can be extreme. And do you really want to go to that extreme so that you are being told that you're a submissive woman? Mimi, I do not want to, sacrifice my happiness to be a submissive woman, because even in the Bible, the way people actually interpret it is totally different from how it is supposed to be, even according to the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was just thinking, I think that's one that when you were saying that it's subtle, that toxicity is subtle. It just comes. I think it's because of what you're saying. We are our own thorn in the flesh, and then we teach those around us how to treat us. We teach them that, if I tell Fatma no, she'll just stay. So it's how we condition people to treat us. But I'm usually stuck with how to maybe tell a mom that it will be okay even if you say no, it's okay. But I think the beatings, because that's where domestic violence, when you're saying we assert ourselves, and then the person becomes violent, or starts, like you're saying, character assassination. They start insulting you. I think that thought of either the beatings or the fear of just being insulted just makes moms want to stay. So in your professional opinion, what would you tell now a mom who is in that place of, if he can be like that with his family, I mean, there's no need of me, who is an outsider. I can't try to change him. So maybe just, what is a first step, a small step, that a mom in that situation who is afraid, what's the first step that they can take towards being assertive without just going all out with their assertiveness? What's something they can try to start doing?
I think that's a very good question, Rimo. And what I can say is that, of course, when you start, you'll always be told that umeanza kumea pembe, or whatever language that maybe you speak in your home, but you have to do it in a very systematic way and in a very respectful way. And number one is just to have a conversation. Imagine it's quite unfair, but you cannot start acting and yet your spouse does not even understand why you have all of a sudden decided to shift and start doing, because now when you start doing that, they'll say that you're being rebellious, and that will now trigger, that bit of even the physical abuse. So first, the number one thing is to have a conversation. And if this person does not want to sit down and you talk about it, if you can involve another person to come in and just sit in and you have that conversation together, the better for you. Because now once you take the action, they will never say that you will definitely tell them, now this is where we began. I asked you, we sit down because there were some things that are not going right, and now you refuse, and I had to call in somebody. Still, you're being this. So for me, they need to know that, I mean, you're the one who is to give yourself happiness. If you're not getting it from your house, then you need to figure out how else, because you're not comfortable with how you're living. You're not comfortable with how you're living. Yeah.
Okay.
But seeking help, it depends again on the magnitude of the toxicity. If you need to seek help, you better seek that help mapema enough. Yeah, before now things go south, and then that is when you're coming and telling people, he cut my hand. There's a history behind that. This is not something that starts in one day. You can actually tell that I do not like what is happening. But again, for you to come to that realization that things are not okay, you have to be very on a high alert, or rather self-aware of even yourself. Because if you're consumed by all these things, then you'll not even get to understand the right and the wrong. You will just be saying everything is okay, and you do not want to get to that point. Yeah.
I think one important thing you've mentioned, Fatma, is the beauty of approaching somebody. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a therapist like you, a marriage therapist. It can just be a friend, somebody
Mm,
who, because they can then think logically. Because
yeah.
sometimes when you're in that place of pain, you may not think as logically. So just tell
Mhm.
somebody. We lost a family member who, when she got married, she isolated herself from her side of the family. And so, of course, he could treat her in any way, because who do you have on your corner? Nobody. So I think part of what moms can start doing is building people on their corner, have community, have a support system, so that you can be able to, and then have a support system that is wise. Because I think in today's, we hang out with people who are equally toxic. So there is no one person. It's like a blind person leading a blind person. So as you're doing what you are telling us to do, a self-reflection, I think one of the important things is to check our community and our support system. If we never build each other up to grow, to improve, then of course we will just decide to stay in those toxic relationships. There's something I grew up hearing. I don't know if people still say it, but I grew up hearing, you'd rather be crying in a Mercedes. I don't know if you had that one. You'd rather be crying in a Mercedes than being happy in some, I don't know, wheelbarrow or bicycle or other thing. So we grow
Mm,
up with that mindset of, I'd rather be in my Mercedes,
yeah.
but I'm crying. It's okay. I have everything. I sleep in they are called what, this silent night. Like I have everything. Crying is
Mhm.
okay. I'll deal with it. So
Yeah.
that's, I think, a mindset issue, a limiting belief issue. But here's the
Mhm.
thing: when you grow up hearing that over and over and over again, you believe it so much, even if, as Fatma, you come and tell me, I wait more. What he's saying, even in front of us, that I'll be like,
Mhm.
he's like that. So
Mhm.
how do you help a mother who is not seeing? They're so numb to the toxicity, they don't even see it themselves. How do you start a conversation with such a mom?
Um, just talking to them, and having just finding time for them. And at times you're not even going into the problems direct. You just want to catch up and understand. So how is life? How are things? And you'll just realize, because they have a lot and they don't, for them, where they're at, it's like they're being held hostage. They do not want to be the ones who are initiating that conversation, but you will find somehow they'll just start talking. Yeah. So the thing is just to find time for such moms. Yeah. And not to discuss family issues. Apana, just go out somewhere over a cup of coffee, go out somewhere maybe for a walk, go out somewhere for maybe some picnic, and people talk. I've seen it happening. People start opening just a bit at a time. And eventually, the things that they tell you, by the time everybody is parting ways, gosh, you're thinking, how have you been living in that house? Maybe I cannot hack it. So it's just engaging them and just finding time for them, because for them, they will never initiate that time. They'll never call you and tell you, hey, Rimo, can we meet today? They'll never do that, because their self-worth is so low that they feel like everything is written on their face. It's like you can read them. You can read what is happening in their lives. But again, one thing you need to assure them is that whatever that you discuss, it's very confidential, and I am here to help you. I am here to help you where I can. But remember, at the end of the day, the decision lies with you. It all depends on you. What is it that you want to emulate to your children? And again, is it that you've given up in life, or what is happening to you? And then you tell them about their positive side, the person that you used to know that some time back and the person that you are seeing now. There is a total disconnect. Just helping them to start now digging deeper from the inside, so that they can understand what exactly is happening.
Okay, I think that's nice advice. Yeah, take your friend, take your fellow mom out and just enjoy being out. They'll open up, because they'll be
Yeah.
like, why don't I do this more often? Like, this is really nice. So take it as your burden. It's what I was reading earlier there, Tom Campolo, just saying, you see the sacredness in the other person, that even if they are struggling, they are still people that God loves. And so if God is using you as a vessel to help with the healing process, that you accept it. So now that we are talking about the better to cry in our cities, I think there is also financial abuse is so huge, especially in our economy right now. So you'd rather take whatever insults and just live in this toxic environment, just so that then you and your children are able to survive. So to be honest, Fatma, it would be hard for a mom right now to leave a relationship that is toxic when they don't have the economic power to be
Yeah.
able to live. So
Mm-hmm.
what are small things you can advise a mom who is in, like, she has no, there's nothing she can do, like, that's it, especially a lot of stay-at-home moms who, like, they gave everything to take care of their children, and so they are being looked down upon and being undervalued for their contribution. But she can't go. Where is she going? Okay, there are those who live because they have community that will be supportive, but that one who has nobody and they don't even have the financial muscle, what would you
Mm-hmm.
tell? I don't know whether you had prepared it for the next stage, but maybe that's something I think that's really huge and it's for real in, currently.
Mm-hmm. What I can say is, when at times we just think that this person is the one, is everything in terms of the financial, support. Number one for me, or Remo, that one is, I'm sorry to say this, and I'm not condemning, I'm not doing anything, but it is a sin. Because imagine God has blessed each one of us. It does not matter where you have come from. It does not matter, whether you have nothing. But let me tell you, if your conscience is clear of what you want, imagine God makes a way for you. God makes a way because you become wiser. Because once you start talking to people, you will get somebody who will tell you, all right, I will work with you. Just like you, Edimo, the way you are very passionate about moms and the way you're very passionate about each one of us, at least having something. So the help is there. Help is there. We just need to step out with that, take that step of faith. We go out there, and let me tell you, all the information that we need and maybe all the help that we need, it is going to come. It might not come as a financial assistance, but it is a place where you can start from. Yeah, it will be a stepping stone to the next level. So it's a process. It is not something that is going to happen overnight, because I don't believe anybody can ever give you money that can, you know, um, sort you out for the rest of your life. But it all begins with you. How ready are you to move out of that situation? How ready are you to even seek for help? Not at times even seeking for help, just trust in God. Tell God, now me, I am tired. And our God is so faithful that he can never leave us. Because what I believe, there is help out there. People are willing to work with other moms. People are willing to work with each other, as long as you're willing to take that step. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Fatma. And talking about help, I've linked my personal growth hub. It has free resources. Some are paid, but free resources. So if you know a mom who just needs in her quietness to be able to access information, go to YouTube and just type. You'll be able to find people who have gone through it, who have healed. And so, yeah, I like how, I guess this is maybe being a coach and a therapist where you're just saying, imagine there's a way. But you see,
Mhm.
we don't see it. Yeah, there's a way. So thank you for just putting that in so that then we don't stay in this victim space when
Mhm.
there's something that they can do. The other one that is new to our generation, which we didn't grow up with social media, but I think people also stay for show. So in when the door locks, toxic
Mhm.
environment. But on social media, when you're outside, we'll just see this couple goal type of things. Um, yeah, I think talk to now a mom who is taking it intentionally for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
We didn't grow up with that. It's so new and it's so like you can almost spot fake people. But
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Talk to that mom who is being I don't know what to call it. I don't know what you'd call it, Fatma. Like they know what they're doing. They're taking
Yeah.
the shots on the outside, but you'll post stuff and you'll go outside and you show a united front. But that's not how things are.
I think from even where I sit, I'm a teacher by profession, and I see that happening a lot with some of the parents, and the kind of stories that we hear now from the children. They are totally different from the posts that we see on social media. Well, at times I sit back to try and think about what exactly is happening at the back of their minds, but clearly you can tell that these people are going through something, yeah, and they're just trying to put on that again facade. So the facade comes in many ways, because you cannot go telling the whole world, but now you are going to actually place yourself up, or you show people that yes, I am doing fine, but in real sense, at the back of you, actually, it's a what? It's a pressure cooker that is waiting to erupt. Yeah. So for me, I think imagine is just again going back to yourself and going back to your core self and ask yourself, okay, is this what I love? You really need to take yourself through that car, because you need healing. Yeah, that is not normal. That is not normal. There is something that is going on in your life, and you need to heal it. And for you to heal, you need to sit back, evaluate yourself. That self reflection. Yeah, so that you get to understand, why do I do this way, and on this other side, if you compare the two, they're totally different. Versions of me. So you need to understand where you're coming from, and now you start taking up that healing process. But otherwise, imagine you end up breaking down, and people will just be wondering how. According to what we used to see on social media, is totally different from the stories that you're hearing. We do not want that, because I remember, you're not living your life for people. Each and every one of us has a purpose here on earth. And at times when you do some things, imagine you're just sabotaging what God has for us. Because it doesn't matter how I look, but for me, all I know is that before God, I am somebody who is precious, and I have all it takes for me to succeed in this life without depending on any human being. Because remember, human beings are just like shadows. Yeah. They will today, the shadow is here right now, and then it will move, but God does not move. So we need to again anchor ourselves with the word of God, and imagine everything is going to be beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I need to say this for those who are watching now and those who are going to watch the replay. Reaching this place of just looking at these two women who are confident in themselves and what they're saying, it's a journey. And that's why we are saying invest in your personal growth. We may not necessarily have been in toxic relationships, but moving from that place where we don't know who we are to moving to a place where you know who you are, you are in God. When I hear Fatma, just talking about, like, it's doable, there's nothing that cannot be done. To reach that place, it's just self-awareness, going into that place of self-discovery. Who am I? What am I going through? What do I need to change in my life? What's my support system? All these things are going to give you the answers that you need. So don't say it's for other people. Imagine it's also for you. You just need to find that courage, that first step in the right direction. Talking about just us and how we've grown, I think also sometimes moms who are in toxic relationships, they grew up in abusive relationships. So as a child therapist, I think this is your love and your passion to help people see actually your issue could be stemming from so far. I don't know whether that was your second part, but I think that sometimes we are blinded or we are numb to the abuse and the toxicity, not because of our partners, but because of the foundation. So I think this is a good time for you to tackle the childhood traumas, because I think they play such a huge role and we don't see it if you don't know.
Yeah, but then it's a very true actually, because one of the I had this question here that says today, so we are looking at why doesn't the mom who is in a toxic relationship, why doesn't she just leave that relationship? And one of the things is that the family expectations and the experiences that we had when we were children, the childhood trauma, the past experiences. Um, as I said earlier, it's not only for our spouses or for us as moms, but both of us, we all came from somewhere. We all have experiences of childhood. And our past experiences with violence distorts mom's sense of self or of healthy relationships. Growing up where abuse was normal. So at times you might hear even people saying that I watched my dad beat my mom. Yeah. Then I found someone just like dad. Our pattern of relating to others is set in motion long before each of us met. And it's quite unfortunate. I don't know. There's this law of attraction, that people talk about, and somehow that our child experiences and the way our parents related to us have imprinted certain thought patterns and behavior in us. So we find that if you sit back as a mom, maybe, and look at how you grew up, And as I said earlier, the relationship might, maybe your parents' relationship might not have looked toxic, but it was. Maybe there was no physical abuse, there was no emotional abuse is there, but the physical abuse was there. So you could not tell what was happening around your home. But again, there is a way that there's what your mom went through at that level. You know, for you, you were just a child, so you don't bother with some of the things. But again, there's some lifestyles that were displayed, you know, when you were younger, and for us, we were not able to pick. But let me tell you, it was ingrained in our thoughts. It was ingrained in our subconscious. And now, when you get into marriage, it actually plays out. And at some point, you're looking at your marriage and you're thinking, by the way, you know, this is how my dad used to be, or this is how my mom used to be. Or even when you go to Shagu and you're speaking to your parents, they tell you, hey, even for me, it was not easy. But according to you, you were like, what? Mom, I thought dad was the best. But whatever that they went through, because I have said some of these toxicity can be very, very subtle. You might not be able to tell. So you can imagine you as a tiny child there, you can't tell, but your parent could tell there was something that was going on. But you know, again, for the sake of my children, you know, let me just stay. I do not want to go. But you see now the effects of the grandchildren on her children. Yeah, because what again happens is that we tend to raise our families, or we tend to have our marriages the way we used to see our parents living their lives. So again, it has a lot of contribution in how we relate with each other as you know, mom and dad in our homes. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Fatma, because I think we underestimate the foundation that we had and its impact of our lives and the relationships that we allow in our families. So I think when you're dealing with your clients, as a, you know, as you're helping people heal from childhood trauma, what are some of the first things that you help people to start seeing? Because you don't necessarily, it's not always toxic relationships, it's just traumas of whatever kind. But healing can begin with self. Before we want to change our spouse or whoever is bringing toxicity in our relationships, what can I be doing for myself first? Because we started, you know, this conversation with love the Lord your God. He's the first one, with everything, with your soul, with your heart, with your might, with everything. Then love yourself, then love your neighbor. But I think we switch and put even people before God. Yeah, and God happens to be second and we are last at the back. But God has given us an order. It's him, then us, then others. And when you understand the love of God, it's easy for you to see yourself from God's point of view. And then when you see yourself that way, it will be so easy for you to love others. So maybe what are some of the things now, somebody who is like, oh, that's why, who, from your conversation, what can they start doing themselves so that they start their healing journey?
Once again, the first thing to do is okay, of course, you have to be intentional about healing from where you are. And you stop pointing that finger to maybe even your spouse. Because remember, when we came into this world, each one of us came differently. You came, and then he came from, you know, the parents and all that. So our lives are not actually tagged, or they're not guaranteed that we have to live with this person for us to live an authentic life. Yeah. So let us all remember that we have our own paths in life. There is what God has placed for each one of us. And as I said earlier, you know, if you're just allowing people to just come and, you know, throwing mud on your face and calling you all sorts of things, and there you have accepted, and now you're crashing down and you're caving in, that is not the plan that God had intended for you, and still is not intending for you to have that kind of life. So you need to be very intentional about recreating your story. You need to recreate your story. You don't want many years to come. Now you'll be telling your children, hey, you know, this is how your dad used to treat me and all that. And that is why I am where I am today, because now I could not even go to work, because at times it can be that bad. Some even spouses will tell you, that controlling bit, they will even tell you, and I have decided from today onwards, you will not report to that office again. Oh my gosh. And then you're wondering, so how am I going to live? And some of them might decide even to take over your bank accounts, and they are the ones who are taking your money. You are working very hard, and then they come, they're the ones who are to dictate on how that money is going to be spent. Anyway, the first thing that you need to do is that you have to be very intentional about recreating your story. And of course, living an authentic life, living a life that God has intended for you. And with that, you need first to identify, where am I as an adult self? Yeah, where am I? You need to have a very clear idea of who that part of you is as at now. Because there is who you are even before you even took up the course that you did. You have risen up the ladder, maybe in the corporate world. But now, even that one now does not matter, because remember, you are so broken. You are nothing. At some point, you had to stop working and stay at home. You have been at home for 10 years. And you're wondering now, even, how do I bounce back and go back to that office? Where do I even start looking for a job? Because I've lost quite a number of years. It is well, because you can recreate your story, and you can begin with the part of first getting to identify you as an adult self. Where are you at? Yeah. And if your experience of being an adult is unclear, you must establish an adult figure who can act as your guide. Who is this person that you admire the most? Yeah. Like for me, I remember I used to have someone or people that I used to admire a lot. And I kept on telling myself, I really have to work on myself. For me to get there, I really have to work on myself. And how do you do that? First of all, you have to identify your pain. You have to identify your pain. And how do you identify your pain? You start by researching your pain. You go back to your childhood years, from the ages of, even, is it about from the time that you were born. If you can have somebody to narrate to you how you have been, the experiences that you had as a child, that can also really help you to bring into clarity some of the traumas that you have that are making you stay in that toxic, relationship, and you are not feeling like it's the wrong place for you to be. So you need to first research your pain and then you identify your pain, and then you need to regress and experience that pain again. Yeah. And how do you experience that pain again? Because when you're told about all these things that happen to you, again, you need to have your own time. Go and think about it and say, wow, so that is how it was. You go back to that pain and you get over it. You can even do a letter to your own little self. Now, that is part of the therapy. That is part of the therapy. And then you can also objectify and interact with your pain. So if you're being told, this is how you used to, maybe this is how my mom used to beat me. Siblings, even, we talk a lot. Yeah, at times you're beaten and then you're told to sleep hungry. So you have to go back to it so that you can basically understand where you're coming from, and then even why you are just there allowing somebody to, do things that are not right, to abuse you, and then from there now you grieve your pain. You grieve your pain. And when you grieve your pain, of course, it's a process once again. And once you do that, you start healing. You start healing the pain, and you're like, all right, that one is past, Inaisha. And of course, by the grace of God, he says you need to take care of the little foxes, yeah, so that they do not damage the vineyard, if I'm not wrong, yeah. So we have to take care of that, so that even as we are raising our children we can raise our children in an environment that is conducive, so that this thing of trauma, this thing of toxicity does not replay itself again in your children's life. Because I don't know what you're going to tell them. When a child comes to you and they tell you, my spouse hit me yesterday, will you tell them Vomelia? Or will you tell them first we need to step back a bit and look at things totally different and see why that is happening? Of course, we do not want to see our children being hurt. So we have to stop it. We have to say no to that intergenerational trauma, because that is how trauma, it's like a ripple effect. If it's happening to you right now, it's going to happen to your children, and it will be very, very subconscious because they have grown seeing it. So if you have a son in the house, they will have a lot of hostility even in school. Those are some of the effects of children. A lot of hostility. Some of them, depending on their nature, can even get into depression. And you see, for children, depression comes in, it displays itself in very many different ways. You're not really able to identify it, not unless you are very intentional, and then the teachers that are dealing with the children would be able to understand what is actually happening to your kids. So as moms, we have to be very, very very intentional of the generation, the next generation that we want to raise, because again, we are the ones who are bringing out the leaders that we have today, you know, and we want to bring out leaders who are not selfish. Where did that selfishness come from? I mean, it's a very huge tree that has such a diverse branches, but we need to see and be intentional of who do I want? How am I going to add value into this world? Yeah, and into my children. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I like that. That number one, we need to find our pain. We need to
Mm,
feel and interact with our pain. We need to grieve our pain. And then the
mm,
healing now completely begins. So we are kind of throwing this back to the mothers who feel they are in toxic relationships. That if you want to see change, if you want to see growth, it has to
mm,
start with you. You start the process yourself, start healing. And I'm sure at the end, Fatma, you're going to share your contacts so that moms can feel free to reach out to you so that they can take that first step towards their healing journey. Allow me to ask you this, Fatma, because throughout this conversation today, we've talked mostly about the spouse. So, are there
mm.
other toxic relationships that moms could be accepting in their lives?
Yeah. Like even the maybe in your place of work, and even with your own mother or with your own father. It's unfortunate. Yeah, it is still there. It is the toxicity is still there. So it's good for us, and that is what I'm saying. It's good to check on where have we come from, and until today, the people that we relate with, yeah, the people that we interact with oftenly, what kind of people are they? What kind of even friends do we have? Because even friends can be toxic. Because if you're having a circle of friends that has no values, have no boundaries, have no, they can just come to your house anytime that they feel like coming. In terms of, I mean, there's a way that it can be extreme, but yeah, there's so many ways that toxic is displayed, in our day-to-day lives. Yeah, even your own house help
Yeah.
can be toxic to your children. Remember, this person is the one who spends most of the time with your children. And once they become toxic to your children, what happens to you? You start getting upset with your children. Maybe you feel there's a certain behavior they have picked. You're wondering what is happening around here. So the toxicity is real and it is everywhere. But we have to be very, very again alert on what is happening around us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was important so that we don't just, put it on the husbands too much,
Mhm.
because we also grow up hearing men are like that. I think we stop saying that. Part of the mindset shifts is stop saying men are like that. You just say your spouse is like that because your
Mhm.
children will hear, people around you will believe, and it's not all men. They are good people who are out there,
Yeah.
and then they are good people. God has given us the privilege. If you have a
Mhm.
son, God has given you the privilege then to raise a new generation, a new crop of young men who see the dignity in women, regardless of how they are like. And we will, like you're saying, we need to stop that cycle. So I liked that. I liked that you've mentioned other relationships so that we don't just dwell on just the
Mhm.
spouse alone. Yeah, there could be other relationships that we are tolerating because we don't know that they are toxic and that we need. So make sure that you check your own family as you're doing what Fatma had asked, do you do self check-in? So part of your check-in is check your family. Are they toxic? Your like your parents, your siblings, are they toxic? Could they be contributing to toxicity in also your relationship because of
Mhm.
what the boundaries that they are crossing? Yeah, like you said, our places of work, our bosses, we bring that into a relationship and start planting seeds that were not
Mhm.
even there, or you become toxic even towards your children because you could also be the one contributing to the toxicity.
Yes,
it's not it's not just
that's
other
true.
people. Yeah, you could be
Mhm.
the one that other people are talking about when they're talking about toxic relationships. So I think
Mhm.
it's been a nice discussion, just bringing us to awareness. One powerful thing you said, it's time to recreate our stories. Yeah, stop
Mhm.
staying and lingering in that place of pain when there are solutions around you. Fatma is
Yeah.
here. I am here.
Mhm.
There's a lot of, we have the internet, which our mothers did not have. Our grandmothers had nobody. Everywhere they're going, they're told, yeah, kangumu, just stay. This is your life forever. But right now, there's so many resources around us. Don't be in that place where your life is taken by somebody toxic around you and your children, even your children. Sometimes it could be you and your children whose lives are taken. Let's refuse that, so that we just allow God to do His work through us and bring for us, breakthroughs in whichever way. He is a miraculous God, and there is nothing impossible with Him. So I don't know if
That
Fatma, you have any final words as we wrap up this conversation.
yeah, for me, it's just to remind the moms that we should stop being the savior in our relationships, because I know many of us would like to help, want to help that spouse of ours, but we need to look at it. To what extent, is the relationship toxic? If it's something that you can try and help early, and by God's grace you're able to sort it out, well and good. But if it goes extreme to an extent that even maybe they are threatening you, because it gets to that point that they tell you, even if you go, I am going to follow you where you are, I am going to finish you, I'm going to finish the children, and I'm going to, now I finish the children first, and then now I finish with you. Yeah, please, you are not Jesus. You are not Jesus. Please just step out of that marriage, because before it gets to that level. Because what story are you going to live with your children? Yeah, suppose even by God's grace, again, you don't go, you don't die, but you break your arm, you break your leg. Imagine that is a scar that you have left on your body that can be so traumatizing to your children and to your children's children. Yeah. So let's stop being that savior. And again, let's not put our children first. I know we love them, and we always say, um, I'm going to sacrifice my safety for the sake of my children. I do not want them to grow up without a father. I do not want to, live without a husband. Now that you guys did a big church wedding and you're just there, unavumilia tu. No, it does not work like that. You better not do that to your children, because that is what is going now to affect them as you move on. So the other thing is about the financial constraints. I think Werimo has mentioned about it. I mean, there's a way out. There's a way out. There is no problem that is too big for God to solve. Let us not be worried. Sacrifice those big cars, sacrifice that big home. But let me tell you, your safety comes first, because it is, again, not about you only. It is about your generations to come. Do you want your generations to live, in toxic relationships? Because it happens. There's some families I look at and I'm like, gosh. So this is where it started, and even the great grandchildren, they are still going through that. Yeah, and if you guys can go back to some of these big people in our country, some of them who passed on years ago, and they left very many wives. Able try to track down on their family tree and see where their children are at. Some of them, they have succumbed into even drugs, because it all started from where the dad started now bringing in all sorts of women and marrying all sorts of women with different characters. I mean, that was traumatic to the children. Yeah. So let us be very, very careful with that. And then maybe something else I can say is that let's purpose to create the secure connection we missed out on as kids. Being a secure connector means becoming more like Jesus, who gave and received and received means becoming more like a Jesus, who gave and what am I saying? Who gave and received loved in healthy ways. Let us receive love in healthy ways, honestly addressing problems with patience and grace, and repairing ruptures when they occurred. Again, evaluate your strengths and weaknesses, and own our contributions to relational difficulties, and apologize sincerely when they make mistakes. Let's be people who can, go and say, I am sorry, I did this. I am sorry, I did. Let us be quick again to just apologize, so that our love can be unconditional. And I think, Hoirimo, that's it from my side.
Well, that's a powerful ending. Yeah, so if you're a mom out there, just know you're not alone. Just know it's doable, not by your strength. Don't lean on your strength. Just trust in the Lord. He'll bring the right people around you, bring the right resources around you. He'll bring the right ideas around you. So you don't have to worry about what next, as long as you don't go it alone. Start healing. Start with yourself. Don't want to heal the other person before you do it yourself. when I'm working with moms, one of the most beautiful things is seeing a mom start owning her own. And then I always tell them, let people catch up to you. You be growing, be going. They'll catch up with you. So you'll be so surprised the power that you have muted within yourself. There's so much that God still has for you to do. Don't deny your children a mom who is whole. Don't deny your children that. And next generation, be a grandma that is loving and caring because you took care of yourself first. Remember, love the Lord your God, love you, love others. And so, thank you so much for those who've joined us through LinkedIn, those who've joined us through YouTube, and those who've joined us through Facebook. This has been a wonderful way to spend our morning. Share this with a mom who needs to hear it because sometimes that's the best that you can do. So, thank you also, Fatma, for coming again. We have done two other videos, so I would ask people to go to YouTube and check those out in my channel. I've already linked in the description. So thank you so much, and may the Lord God bless you abundantly. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Wairimu.